It's the community that really takes care of us when it comes to helping us with the issues in the city. This is not a police problem. This is a community problem. We can't do it by ourselves.
Welcome back to Let It Rip. Tonight, religious leaders are stepping up to fight crime, encouraging their members to speak up and speak out. With us right now, Reverend Curtis Williams of the Agilon Baptist Church, also former police chaplain.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Patrice Young, whose brother was murdered back in 2006, she now works for Crime Stoppers.
Yes.
Fighting crime. And we have also Reverend Eddie Conner, author, speaker, leader of the Open Door Ministries, all three part of the campaign called Project Good Samaritan, launched this week in partnership with Crime Stoppers of Michigan. You've all met Charlie, so let's go. Reverend, let me begin with you because the murder of your brother is still unsolved.
Absolutely right.
2013.
2013, on October 28th, my brother was home, minding his own business in the safety of his own house, and a stray bullet came and he was shot in the head.
Now, people think, you know, pastors who have successful businesses don't have to go through the family tragedies that most of us have to go through, but it touches everybody.
We're just as human as anyone else. And when crime touches the community, it touches the pastor, it touches the businessman, and it just so happens that this is my older brother.
67 years old.
67 years old. He was killed the day after his 67th birthday.
And describe the circumstances. He was in his house.
He was in his home. He was in bed. There were some men that having an argument in front of the home. And what happened was he called the police. The police did not come. And he got out of bed, sat on his couch, took his 11 o'clock breathing treatment because he was on oxygen. Stray bullet comes in the house, hit him in the head, and that's it.
And no one has said a word.
No one has said a word, but we do know that there are people in the community that know. Because I've had phone calls, but they will not talk to the police.
Patrice, sadly, you went through the same thing in 2006 with your 29-year-old brother.
Yes.
How did he die?
He was killed. He was gunned down. He was chased. He was shot in the face 10 times, shot in the stomach, and shot in the leg. It was a double homicide. He was shot with his, well, I want to say best friend.
Sadly. But in your case, somebody was brave enough to speak up.
Brave enough to speak up. Someone called about his whereabouts, and they picked him up. We went through trial 2010. It took 4 years for someone to speak up. And he went to jail he's in jail for 42 years.
At least you got justice.
Yeah.
So you know how important it is for somebody out there to pick up that phone and call.
Yes.
It is a weapon against crime.
It is.
Reverend Conner, I first met you when you were a young man, I think just graduating from college.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I looked at you and your background and I said, it's amazing the choices that you've made. Why is it, coming from where you've come from, that you decided to go into the ministry, into teaching, instead of leading a life of crime?
Powerful, pertinent question. And to hear these stories and to think about my own life, raised in a single-parent divorce household, my own father was not in my life, but I was at a crossroads in my life at the age of 15 when I was battling with stage 4 cancer was my diagnosis. And to lose all my hair, to lose my self-confidence and self-esteem, and also be in a cesspool of negativity, and to begin to think positive in a negative situation, to see the first 3 letters in cancer is can. You can overcome and you can survive. To share that type of message in even a cesspool that in many cases we're living in, with the term no snitching. A lot of times we hear snitches get stitches. Right. But I think we have to define and redefine the term snitch as someone needs information that can help.
Yes.
And when we begin to share that and we begin to, as the minister was saying, have a community of love. But how do you know what love is if nobody ever expressed it to you? And so when we begin to understand and develop who we are, you know, Dr. King says, violence is the language of the unheard. I like to say silence is the language of the unspoken. Who's going to begin to stand up? Who's going to begin to speak out and begin to bridge the gap in our communities so that we don't have the depravity, negativity, unemployment, job loss, and schools closed but prisons open?
But look, Charlie Duff brought this up, Charlie Langton. Frankly, in some cases, people have spoken up, spoken out, and they've been killed or hurt too.
That's the reality, yes. I just have to think that that is not the norm. Does it happen? Yes, it does. But I have to think that there are many more cases out there where people know. People want to do something. If you lost a loved one, if you lost your brother, doesn't matter who you lose. Don't you want someone to come forward? Don't you want that help? Don't you want that someone in your life? You know what? I think you've got to have faith in the cops and have faith in the legal system that if it's a murder case and someone will really go up there and testify, that person is going to be convicted. And you never have to worry about that again.
What do you tell your flock who come to you and say, Pastor, I would call the cops, but I'm afraid that I'm going to get hurt or that the killer might hurt my family? What do you tell them?
You'll have to tell them you must do the right thing, because it may not be your relative, but we're all involved in the same community. Yeah. You have to do the right thing. You have to snitch. You have to talk to them. That's exactly what I say to them. Call the police. Tell me the information. Let me call them. I'm not afraid. I was a chaplain for 33 years before I surrendered my badge last year. All right, I'll call them for you. Let me be your voice piece. But the community has to talk. People have to stand up. And, you know, for the most part, people don't want to talk until it happens
to them.
Right. And
Correct.
we've got to get past and beyond that. And also, Charlie, it's it starts in the home. We got too many children raising children. We got too many mothers partying with their daughters, too many fathers partying with their sons, hanging out, smoking weed. That's one of our problems. But I tell my congregation, and I'll tell anybody, you must talk. You must tell the truth. You got to have some integrity, because don't wait until it happens to you, but talk and help your neighbor.
Help your neighbor. I think that we're not having enough dinner conversation. We're not sitting down at home at 6 o'clock eating dinner, talking to our parents, talking to our grandparents, talking to our neighbors. We have to, like you said, we have to love each other. We have to look out for the next person. If it's a child on your block and you see they might have not, eaten anything, then you invite them in.
And if you see somebody doing wrong. If you see somebody hurting somebody in your neighborhood, tell the police. Tell somebody in authority. If you're afraid to tell the police, call your pastor. That's a part of this project, the Good Samaritan Project.
Yeah.
There's somebody you can talk to who can get the information to the right people.
Call your local businessman.
Get it done.
I always say you was not. You were not born a criminal. Somebody showed you how to do it. Somebody taught you how to do it.
And sometimes it takes prison to convert you and show you the right way. All right, panel, thank you. Now, I don't have the answers, but I do know the number. If you've got a tip that can solve a crime, 1-800-SPEAK-UP. And so you won't spend time deciphering the letters. We've got the number 1-800-773-2587. Got that? All right, stay with us. Charlie takes the show on the road when we come back. More to come.
Crime in Detroit is going down.
Sometimes it sounds like it, but then sometimes it doesn't. I won't get gas in Detroit.
It's kind of got a cool vibe now.
Real Detroit is the east side or the west side or the southwest side.
You live on the east side of Detroit? Near the city airport?
No. I feel safe down there.
You go down a lot?
Yeah.
Would you live there?
It depends on where I live.
East side. Houston, Whittier, Gratiot?
Yeah. Probably.
West side. Do you think that the west side of Detroit is a safe area?
No.
The chief is saying that Detroit crime rate is going down. Do you believe that?
I mean, I guess what crimes?
Auto theft's going down maybe, and carjackings, but it's the big ones that you hear about that 2 or 3 at one time happen.
The chief is trying to get reelected.
Do I think the crime is going down in Detroit?
Maybe not majorly, but I believe it has minorly.
There's more murders in Detroit than in Los Angeles.
There's unfortunate news in all parts of the world. Detroit is no different than any other city.
Is it getting better, or there's just less people because everyone's leaving?
Would you live in the city?
Hell no.
If they brought back some more grocery stores.
I don't think there's enough of a police presence around.
I'm far from afraid, not at all. I have God on my side.
New survey shows that whites are moving into Detroit at greater numbers, but blacks are still moving out. Final thoughts, 15 seconds. Reverend Connor.
We're having a changing dynamic, but we got to engage and impact and empower. Stay engaged, talk, implement, and then also empower people to overcome the obstacles. A knockdown is not a knockout unless we stay down. We get knocked down, but we got to get back up
And
again.
crime is still an overriding issue for everyone, black or white.
For everyone. We have to teach. We have to preach. We have to educate. We have to tell the kids how to get to the next step. We can tell them they can be a lawyer, but it's steps you have to take to become a lawyer. That means you have to go to school, you have to get good grades, and you have to graduate.
Life ain't easy. It's hard, but the struggle is worth it.
Hugh, I live in Detroit. I pastor the Agilent Church of Detroit. I own Trinity Chapel Funeral Home in Detroit. Like this young man, single family home. But you can do it. But you have to educate and train our children. Starts from the womb, from the high school, the middle school. We gotta come together and do this. We can change this culture. And like many of my colleagues that live out the city, they want to call the shots in Detroit. No, we have to live in Detroit so we can call the shots in Detroit.
Bottom line, we are all in this together.
All in it.
Together.
No problem.
I agree.
Absolutely. Thank you, panel, for your
Thank
comments.
you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this edition of Let It Rip.
The Let It Rip discussion continues online. Sound off on Facebook, Twitter, or myfoxdetroit.com.